Hey everyone, how's it going? Just a quick announcement before I delve into today's video. I have a schedule of live events planned just for you all, wonderful viewers. They are live events, check them out. They will be at 6:30 p.m. UTC plus 0. That's 6:30 p.m. UTC plus 0. On Friday, we will have our UK StimHack League number 3 finals. I've casted the last two live, and I hope you can join us for this one again, where we watch the top 4 of the UK League battle it out. On Sunday, I will be hosting the second iteration of my Blast from the Past Classic Decks tournament. Join in the tournament. It's open to everyone. Join Blast from the Past channel on Slack, StimHack Slack, or if you want to watch it, just tune in to my YouTube as well. Looking forward to see all of you over the weekend. Now let's get into the video. Not too long ago, I did a Mad Dash collaboration with Code Marvelous. If you haven't checked that out, I'm not sure honestly what you're doing here right now. Stop this video, go check out the collaboration, and then come back to this one, because before we did the collaboration, I actually had this idea as well. Turns out, great minds think alike. As with Code Marvelous, I think Mad Dash could be used in a Find the Truth deck, and obviously you run Find the Truth in Adam as one of the starting directives. So here we go. I'm up against HB Glacier, which starts with a triple ice opening. God damn it. Really? I can't play the Temujin from my hand. This is very, very bad. Yeah, this is not an ideal start at all. Given that I have Daily Cast and KD Jones in my opening hand, I decide to go for the economy opening instead, but boy, this is really bad. And I realized I have to discard down to 3 cards because I'm Adam. There goes my dirty laundry. This is the worst feeling ever. Not a good start at all. So yeah, just as with the Code Marvelous video, this was played before Mad Dash was implemented on Jinteki.net. As such, any freedom through equality that you see in this deck are actually Mad Dashes. Now, if you have watched the Code Marvelous' side of the video, where he actually plays and builds his Adam deck, you realize some differences immediately. Even though we started with the same shell, mostly blue cards like Temujin, Aaron, E3 Feedback Implants, some of the influence is different. I'm using Deuce's Wild instead, and here I'm going to use Deuce's Wild to make a run on HQ and access 2 cards, because what I really want to do here is to steal an agenda to start turning on my brain chip. I did not get that. I had to spend my entire turn after exposing the Fairchild on HQ, and now it's securely iced up, so no more HQ runs. This is really bad. If Adam gets suffocated early and does not manage to steal an agenda, Adam falls very, very far behind, just like Criminals. And when the mini factions came out, it became pretty apparent. Sunny is kind of like Shapers in that she sets up a big rig and becomes unstoppable. Adam is Apex is very much like Anarch with the destruction theme going on, and Adam is very, very criminal because of his directive, which is neutralize all threats, which gives him an immediate HQ interface essentially on the first turn. It means that I actually have to play very aggressively on HQ to try to get early agendas. Now my opponent makes a new remote, which I then abuse, or rather use, in this case, to run, so that I can trigger Find the Truth. This is how bad it is when I have to spend 3 clicks off my turn to trigger Find the Truth. And then I hit up KD, which means I do not get the play cards from my hand, I do not get the extra draw from Adam. If you're not getting extra draw from Adam, if you're not increasing your hand size with Brain Chip, you are in a very terrible place, and that's where I am right now. Now, that's probably not an agenda, I'm not going to go for it. I draw I keep saying Deus Ex. Deuce's Wild, it's not going to do much. I am loading up a lot of money on KD. I'll definitely need it, because all the ice that I'm going to deal with are very high strength. Now, in the past, HB used to be a pretty okay matchup for Adam, because with E3 Feedback Implants, you basically counter all their high strength taxing ice. Therefore, you don't need to spend that many tokens. E3 Feedback Implants is a very strong counter against Bioroid-based HB, but nowadays that's a lot less so, because with the advent of 2.0 and especially 3.0 ice in the form of Fairchild 3, along with just very annoying ice like Turing, Adam just becomes a lot worse. Apex becomes a lot worse as well. E3 feedback implants doesn't do the work that it used to. It's no longer a hard counter against Bioroids, and that's kind of a good thing. You can't have a single card counter an entire archetype, but at the same time, geez, this is going to be a very hard game. There are Fairchild 3s on both centrals, and this deck has no good way of breaking them. I finally draw into Drug Dealer. This is really good. I do have a lot of money to use. Why not use it on card draw? So Drug Dealer is a very good thing to see right now. My opponent has a Jackson on the table, and I'm very strongly considering playing the Rumor Mill here, hoping to run Archives to get an agenda. At this point, I'm really desperate to just get any form of agenda going, because not only will it increase my hand size, which fuels my draw, more importantly, it will allow me to get Overminds on table with lots of counters, and I'll need a lot of counters this game. So yeah, Rumor Mill blanks out Jackson, but my opponent immediately counters that with the top deck Biotic, which we saw earlier on R&D, and it's an ABT. With the Jackson on the table and the Rumor Mill now gone, my opponent can safely fire the ABT. This game has just gone from bad to worse. This Adam deck is usually good, but I'm starting to realize its big Achilles heel. A pure Glacier deck is going to completely run over you, and this is just hell. Well, Archetype on Archives, another fetch on R&D. I'm basically done at this point. There's nothing I can do to stop this onslaught. I can try my best, but it's probably not going to be enough. So I play a couple of gambles. I play the E3 feedback plants. I get the Drug Dealer draw. Oh dear. But my opponent has a very secure remote that I can't blast past. I haven't drawn an Overmind yet, so I can't contest remotes, and even if I do, my memory is way too low. I do draw into Multi-Threader though. That's another one of my cute tricks that I've used my influence for. Instead of going for other cards, I decided to go for Multi-Threader because it's basically free. It doesn't cost influence, it's an Adam card, and it synergizes well with Overmind, because typically with Overmind at strength 0, base strength 0, you need to spend money to pump up those Overminds in order to break ice, and what better way than Multi-Threader. Adam can be poor at times, your economy is rather slow, especially if you don't get a 15 credit KD going like I do here, so Multi-Threader is going to be pretty key in this matchup. Okay, my opponent gets an Adonis campaign going. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to dig for my breakers. Once I can find an Overmind, I can then begin running HQ and R&D, especially HQ. My opponent hasn't been scoring that many agendas. You have to figure there are a couple of agendas in there. And some unscorable agendas like Global Food. Agendas that he'll be waiting to score while the Adonis ticks down. This is the time to go for it. So I'm going to get the Overmind out, and I realize there are only 2 counters on it. Wow, that is bad. That is just bad. I installed an Overmind with 2 counters. That's ugly. That's just ugly as hell. Yeah, that's quite a waste of an Overmind. So for those of you not very familiar with this deck only runs 3 Overminds as the only breaker. You are expected to get past ice with a combination of Always Be Running and E3 feedback implants. If you're not able to do so, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. This breaker suite is very limited because, as mentioned earlier, Adam is very criminalish. You want to run a lot, and ideally you would be winning the game before you run out of your last Overmind. So your breakers are just there to get in temporarily. You shouldn't need too many of them. Thankfully, I was right. There were agendas in hand. I stole the corporate sales team. That was a good swing. Now my hand size is decent. Now I can get an Overmind with a decent number of counters on. Yeah, I'll take that. But finding the remaining agendas is going to be tricky. We know that the combo here is Mad Dash followed by, which I haven't drawn yet, by the way. I haven't drawn a Mad Dash yet. Mad Dash into a Find the Truth. Now, I'm not getting many Find the Truth triggers. There are no free remotes for me to trigger Find the Truth. So that combo is essentially dead, which means my R&D pressure is basically non-existent. I cannot afford to run R&D every turn to check the top card. Unlike most other Anarch or Criminal decks which run R&D interfaces and mediums, where running R&D repeatedly is fine because you see multiple cards, you can't do that if you're only getting single accesses. This deck makes targeted accesses, which is nice if you can trigger Find the Truth to begin with, which I can't. So, what is my best vector of attack? I actually don't really have a clue. It probably is the remote. If I can lock that remote, I might be able to secure a win. But knowing that the deck contains Marcus Beatty, having seen it from Archives, do I really want to run that remote? 2 unknown upgrades. and probably an Ash waiting at the bottom of the server for me. It just doesn't look good no matter which way I look at it. So whatever the case is, I'm going to perform a mad dash now on the server. I think there's an agenda there, and I'm going to go for it. I think my opponent thinks that I'm going to run HQ. This is why they're jamming an agenda in the remote. I want to get it. Fairchild 4. Also known as the Big Fairchild. The one, the only 8 strength Fairchild. If you thought the KD Jones with 15 credits was a lot of money, well, you're wrong. Those money is going to go away basically from this one single run. My only option here is to spend 8 whole credits to break the bloody Fairchild. Ugh. That's so bad. That is so bad. Also, I should be using my multi-threader token credits here. Not sure why I'm not doing that. Yeah, this is brutal. This is really brutal. Not to mention that I still... No. Sorry. I did not pay with Overmind because I only had 1 Overmind token left. I needed the token in case I needed to break the next piece of ice that I was going to face. So I decided to let all the Fairchild subroutines fire, which means losing 8 credits, taking a brain damage, and trashing 1 installed card. It so happened that the brain damage sniped my second copy of Overmind that was in my hand. 1 in 6 cards, it had to snipe that one. Yeah. Well, this is pretty utter shite. Not gonna lie, I did not want to see that happen. Basically, the worst things that could have happened, and while my opponent doesn't rest the middle ice, which means I still get to keep my Overmind token, unfortunately, there's a Batty side game coming my way, and it's going to be end the run because my opponent can trigger Batty on Ravana, which triggers Fairchild 3's final subroutine, which says do 1 brain damage or end the run. My opponent will obviously choose to end the run. I win the first side game but lose the second, so I don't get access to the server and I'm kicked out. End the run. If that mad dash run succeeded, if it succeeded, and that was an agenda, I would be up to 5 agenda points and I would have some sort of a sliver of a chance of winning. But with this, instead, the tempo goes way in my opponent's favor. And I forgot, I still need to take 1 meat damage from the mad dash that failed. Stupid Marcus Batty. Oh. So yeah, while Adam can contest remotes, he isn't very good at dealing with upgrades, defensive upgrades. At this point, I go to check the deal 1 meat damage command because we have to do that manually since mad dash is not implemented. Let's see what the meat damage hits. It hits an Earthrise Hotel. Not the biggest deal in the world. Alright. So yeah, at this point my opponent does reveal to me that that's in fact an agenda sitting in the remote. I was so close, just 1 side game away, but so close yet so far, yeah? Instead of being up 5-2, I'm now down 2-4. Not good. The worst thing is I actually lost my Overmind, as I mentioned earlier, so this last Overmind in my hand is really my last hope. And given that I don't have a lot of memory right now, only 6 MU, 1 consumed by the multi-threader, I only have 4 Overmind tokens left with my final Overmind. With 4 Overmind tokens, I'm supposed to get 3 more agendas to win. That's a pretty ludicrous stretch, if you ask me. A very tall ask. I have Aaron Marin on the table, and it has been generating a couple of tokens, but it's barely enough. I mean, at this point, Aaron Marin tokens barely matter, because right now what I need is an efficient way to get through servers. Card draw is the least of my worries. I'm not running fouls, so yeah. Maybe this deck should have fouls. That sounds like a pretty decent idea, huh? Anyway, yeah, at this point there's really nothing I can do except to chalk up money. I took a bunch of KD money at the end of my turn. This allows me to siege the next turn by installing Overmind and running somewhere, hopefully. But yeah, basically my options are stifled at this point. Neutralize all threats is pretty useless. When we are in the mid to late game where my opponent is looking for agendas to top deck rather than having agenda flood in hand. It's very unlikely that my opponent has agendas in hand, so that instead of going for HQ, I went for R&D instead. We see a Ravana into double Fairchild 3. That's a hellish server. I can't actually get through that. I only have 1 Overmind token. Great. Again, the limitations of this breaker suite begin to show, and I lose tempo here. So I swing over to HQ instead. I'm grasping at straws at this point. I'm really hoping that there's an agenda of some sort somewhere. I used the last Overmind token. I shouldn't be trashing it. There's no need to trash the Overmind. But it doesn't matter anyway because I'm going to install over it next turn. So I used up a lot of my money, spent all my time on this HQ run, which obviously netted nothing. Well, yeah, the game's basically over at this point. But I think one interesting thing to realize is that you must be very aware of the strengths and weaknesses of your deck. One thing I should have done early on is to just play a lot more aggressively. I barely made runs on R&D, and I didn't run HQ until, I did a Deuce's Wall run on HQ. Sure, I didn't get anything, but what I really should have done was to just start running HQ from turn 1. The setting up was arguably also a right choice because I was starting with a hand size of 3 and I should be getting rid of my cards, but I should have just played a lot more aggressively. Just poke servers because there's nothing much bad that can happen to me aside from an architect. And yeah, just make sure that my opponent is very poor. If I can keep my opponent poor, they can't get Adonises going, they can't get money going, and it's very difficult to keep the defenses up given that the ice is so expensive. Instead, I tried to set up and hit KD every turn, and as a result, I was very, very slow. There were definitely agendas in hand. I just didn't get them because all I did early on was to make a single run on HQ. So that was my mistake. As Adam, you have to capitalize on the early game. Your success in the game really comes down to whether you can find an early agenda or not. Even if it's not a mad dash agenda, as long as you get 2 points, you don't have to worry that much about overmind tokens, and you can be a lot more it's a lot more liberating to play when you are not stuck with a hand size of 3. So those were the mistakes I made. The early game was played very poorly, and as a result, I'm suffering right now because I just can't make any headway. I have a lot of mad dashes in my hand, but aside from a lucky snipe on R&D, it's not going to do much. I'm probably going to liberate KD Jones here and then go for a Hail Mary run on R&D. Not much I can do other than that. Because as you see, I realized that in the late game, if you're up against a Glacier deck, this is the sort of suffocation you face as Adam. HQ is not viable because there are no agendas. The remote is near impenetrable if your opponent knows how to ice properly, which credit to my opponent, they did. They knew that the Fairchild 4 would be best placed on the remote, which basically makes it impossible to contest that server with Adam's rig. R&D doesn't need to be super taxing. It just even a single Fairchild 3 makes it so hard to run through R&D, given that my breakers overmine. Double Fairchild 3 is just icing on the cake. So yeah, my opponent did a very good job of icing their servers. They knew which to prioritize. R&D was thick enough to deter me from running for single accesses, and the remote is near impossible to break. I'm going to go with a Dirty Laundry run here, but really I should be doing a Mad Dash run instead. Getting 3 credits from Dirty Laundry is the least of my priorities right now. Then here comes the Fairchild, which I use Always Be Running to break. So that's the nice thing about Always Be Running. It allows you to get past these sorts of ice that is normally really tough to break, but then my opponent kindly reminds me that I blanked Always Be Running with Dr. Lovegood. Well done, beyoken, you are a dumbass. Oh my gosh, I completely stupidly blanked my way through the Fairchild 4. My only answer to that damn ice. Oh man, I love my planning. So good, so good. Okay. Yeah. So I can't use Always Be Running because I blanked it because I didn't want to make a run on my first click. And I get punished for it. So yeah, this run is not going to happen. I'm not going to have enough money to break through everything. I'm just going to use my Overmind here. I'll be down to 2 credits and 2 clicks. My opponent then reses the wall static here, and I can't break it. I need 3 credits to break the wall static, so I jack out. Yeah, that is really, really unfortunate. Boy, this sucks. Stupid Always Be Running. But then, my opponent, being very friendly himself, reminds me that I could actually get through the server. I had 2 clicks and 2 credits remaining, and it only costs 1 credit to break the wall static because I used Inti earlier. Did you know that Inti retains its strength during a run? I bet you didn't, and I bet you never will ever have to encounter that scenario, but here, Inti shines through for me. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Inti did the work. By breaking this wall static earlier, I could get through the wall static I mean, the video goes on, I still lose, but hey, NT got me through the server. How's that? Pulling its weight as the one influence card in my deck. So good. So even though I lost this game, I really like showcasing this because it shows you a contrasting side of Adam. One where he suffers due to it being a very bad matchup. There are pros and cons to this. Using Find the Truth versus Spy Camera for enabling Mad Dash, and I find it very interesting because they're almost polar opposites. Find the Truth is very good against horizontal decks that have fewer ice, that leave servers open, whereas Spy Camera is better against decks that go for the long game and try to go for a lot of ice. Both have their own place in different metas, and which you choose can really affect your performance during a given tournament or day. So choose the right one based on the pros and cons that you see on the screen. Well, hope that was educational. I sure found it very interesting. Even though it was a lost game, as I said, there's always something to learn, and I hope you've learned something along with me. Thanks for watching, and happy net running. Happy mad dashing as well. See you.